Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and I'm glad you're with us to stay curious. And boy, am I curious looking out this window here of this beautiful scene that you would get if you had a ticket on a Blue Origin New Shepard space craft that they flew one up today again with a bunch of NASA suborbital experiments on. Pretty cool out there to think about that. And yeah, I've got my birthday hat ready here. Though Marty says it makes me look like a dunce cap. But we've got a bunch of birthdays here to share for you today. In fact, let's just rattle them off before we get into a couple little space news things there. We have birthdays today. Happy 89th birthday to Joe Engel. You're going to see pictures of them and Joe in a minute. Nope, that's not the right one, Marty. That's just no. Don't do that. We're not. No birthday on that, Marty. That's 2 weeks ago. We're not. We didn't use the banner today for our birthday celebrities, Marty. Marty Winkle, my cameraman, co-producer, and friend, and an awesome volunteer of our museum. And we've got Jessica Galloway's behind the engineering of today's show, allowing me to look out in space from this window of a Blue Origin spaceship. But we wish a happy birthday to 3 shuttle astronauts born on August 26th. Joe Engel's 89, the only person to fly 2 space planes. You'll get the details about that. John Blaha is 79, and he lived on the Russian Mir space station and was a shuttle commander. And Kay Heyer is 62, an engineer out at Kennedy Space Center who became an astronaut. Very interesting path for Kay Heyer. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what would have been the 100th birthday of who Chris Kraft calls one of the most important people in the space age, and that is Max Faget, the designer of all of the manned spacecraft that America's put in space. So let's kick that off a minute here. And Jessica's behind Jessica, are you behind the control there? Yeah. That's quite distracting over there to me. I can't. So please allow me to focus a little better. Thank you. We're sharing a room here in our studio, and sometimes there's too much going on. But this story Marty brought in today. All right. Space flight sees oxygen shortage. Okay, who would have thought that the pandemic has triggered a shortage of oxygen across the nation, and it has rippled out to space flight companies such as SpaceX and United Space Alliance. In fact, the president of SpaceX, Gwen Shotwell, says in this story, we're actually going to be impacted this year with the lack of liquid oxygen for launch. We certainly are going to make sure hospitals have the liquid oxygen they need. All right. And gee, Marty, we haven't had a launch on the Space Coast since June 30th, almost 2 solid months. I thought it had been a while, but I thought we launched one in July. That's like the old days here on the Cape and Kennedy Space Center, where they did 4 or 5 a year. So they were on scheduled to do 40, maybe 50 launches in 2021, but that's not going to happen. In fact, the next launch scheduled is 3:30 in the morning, Saturday morning, where SpaceX is launching a cargo mission to the International Space Station in their agreement to supply the space station with necessary supplies. So though it varies per mission, a typical Falcon 9 uses 40,000 gallons of liquid oxygen in its first stage. So headline news today, pandemic affecting the amount of liquid oxygen that is available. Of course, they take this oxygen that I'm breathing in the air, 70% nitrogen, 29% oxygen going in my lungs, and they bring it down to 250 degrees below zero, and it's a liquid, and it flows like a fuel into those Falcon 9 engines. So, all right. A little bit of news there, and let's get to the birthdays here that we're going to celebrate. And the first one up is John Blaha. And John Blaha was born in San Antonio, Texas. All right. And he is spent 161 days in space on 5 missions, including a 5-month stay on the Russian space station. John Blaha's talked many times out at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. I've enjoyed seeing a couple of those talks. He's so engaging. He said a couple things that stick in my mind. One is we probably will never have a reusable space plane like the space shuttle in 100 years, is what John Blaha thinks, because it was so complicated and so hard to manage, and no one will want to take that on again for a long time. And then I'll never forget, like the typical 8 to 10-year-old girl or boy asks an astronaut, "What do I do? What do I study to become an astronaut?" And John Blaha had one of the most incredible answers I've ever heard. He said, "I'll tell you what you do if you want to be an astronaut, is you want to have a good memory, and how you're going to have, you want to have a photographic memory, and how you're going to do that is you're going to read a book for 20 minutes by yourself, alone in your room. You're going to read for 20 minutes, and then you're going to sit and remember for 15 or 20 minutes everything that you read. And when you start disciplining yourself to do that, your friends in college are going to say, 'Wow, you've got a photographic memory. How lucky is that?' And you're going to say, 'No, I worked my butt off on that,' because John Blaha's point was there's so much to learn, so much to read, so much to know, that if you train your memory to keep it all in, you're going to be ahead of the game." So I thought that was a very out-of-the-box answer from this definitely out-of-the-box gentleman that was a pilot, a commander. He was a mission specialist, and then his last and fifth flight, he spent 5 months on the Mir space station. So happy birthday to John Blaha. And like I said, he is 79 years old today, is what John Blaha is. So cheers to him. And here's Kay Heyer. Kay Heyer was born August 26, 1959 in Mobile. She's in Mobile, Alabama. She was a captain in the U.S. Navy Reserve, and she has 2 space shuttle missions. All right. So she's celebrating her 62nd birthday and still active in her community, I am sure. Kay Heyer was an engineer on the shuttle program, working in one of the orbital processing facilities on the orbiters when she applied to be an astronaut, and was one of the 4 or 5 women, maybe there's 4, maybe there's 3 women who were actually worked on the space shuttle, applied, and then become an astronaut. So hopefully she's having a terrific birthday here, her 62nd. And boy, we've had a pile of birthdays in the last 2 weeks. I think there's 17 astronauts who've had birthdays the last 14 days. Quite incredible. But we want to spend a little time on this man, Joe Engle, 89 years old today. Joe Engle's born in Chapman, Kansas there, Jessica. You know where Chapman is?
I don't know.
You're from Wichita, right? And he was born August 26, 1932. And he was the commander of 2 space shuttle missions, including STS-2, the second flight of Columbia in November 1981. That almost didn't happen. Let me tell you a little bit about Joe Engle. He is the only human to fly in 2 space planes. Well, Mark, you said the space shuttle. Yep, that's right. But what's the other one? Well, the other one would be, there's Joe waving in his later years there. Hey, Joe, hope you're having a great birthday, 89 years old. Wow. But here he is as a young man, and that is the X-15 space plane behind him. In 2 or 3 times, he reached altitude of what was considered space and got his astronaut wings, like a few of these X-15 pilots did. Neil Armstrong was a X-15 pilot, but he didn't go above that 50-mile line that the aviation board at the time said was space. So, so Joe Engle, the only person to fly in 2 space planes, and you know what? He was almost a moonwalker. And I'm going to show you this here. What we're all about is, imagine that as Joe Engle's, Marty's going to do his thing, and he's going to zoom in. Let me go out. Thank you, Jessica. Here we have the handprints of Joe Engle, okay? And at Spaceview Park, we have over 30 astronauts' handprints in bronze. And this was how our American Space Museum started, with literally the city of Titusville wanting to do a renaissance of downtown in the late 1990s. And a dentist in town saw the Grauman Chinese Theater handprints, and he said, our astronauts need that. So the city council embraced it, and beautiful Spaceview Park was created. And Charlie Mars, our board chairman and lovingly our godfather of our museum for the past 20 years, was instrumental in getting more than 3/4 of these handprints of the astronauts in clay. And here's his account of getting this handprints. Joe was one of the 4 shuttle astronauts staying at the Courtyard Marriott in Cocoa Beach that we got handprints for. We had planned this out with the photographer and 4 trays of clay. Jack Weekland, our museum administrator, was one of the helpers. All involved seemed to have a great time, even the Marriott employees. Now, this is a little bit of an ordeal, and I'm going to show you here as Marty's going to zoom in on the pictures that were taken of Joe Engle. And this was in November 2001. Okay, so 20 years ago, these prints were made of Joe Engle. So if he's 89 now, he was 69 back then. And and there's a picture of Charlie Mars with him there on the bottom. But there was clay, and Charlie said he literally had to kind of pound the hands of the astronauts into the clay to get a good impression. You see the imprints there with his wedding ring and so forth. This weighs a ton, a ton, I'd say it weighs at least 50 pounds. And this is what we celebrate, the astronauts at Spaceview Park, the only place in the world where you can put your handprints on Joe Ingles and more than 36 other astronauts. We've got Mercury astronauts, Gemini, Apollo, and then a few of the shuttle ones are here in our museum. Of course, we got Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin here in our museum when you come and visit us. So, but the story of Joe Engle doesn't stop there. Imagine that you are training to be the pilot on the last mission to the moon, Apollo 17, and all of a sudden they say, after 5 successful missions, we've never had a geologist on the moon, and Harrison Schmidt's been teaching us geology and training to be an astronaut. Joe Engle, do you mind if we bump you from walking on the moon and put Harrison Schmidt in there? He was so gracious about it, really. He understood it. I don't know if there's any backbiting about what was going on. There's my birthday hat. But he couldn't have been pleased with losing an opportunity to walk on the moon. But so they said, Joe, we know this upsets you. So NASA said you can be on the Apollo-Soyuz test project with Tom Stafford, or you could be one of the 3 missions of the Skylab that we're planning to do in 1974. In 1975 was going to be the Apollo-Soyuz test project. Joe, choose whatever you want to do. Be on Skylab or the ASTP with Tom Stafford and the Russians. And Joe Engle told NASA he didn't want to do any of those missions. He wanted to fly a plane, a space plane, and he would wait for his turn on the space shuttle. And I really admire that man about it. If I had an opportunity to talk to him, I would ask him all about that. Not about the disappointment of walking on the moon, but just the fact that you overpassed that to fly on a space plane. Because that's what he was a flyer, an X-15 test pilot. He wanted to do something that was stretching the limits all the time. He also participated in the shuttle's approach and landing test, what we call the ALT test. That was a 16-month, very important deal out there in New Mexico at Edwards Air Force Base, where they dropped the shuttle, took it up on the back of a 747, and then dropped it down to land. So I'm just impressed with Joe Engle and how he has conducted himself. Obviously, it'd be a disappointment to not be one of the 12 moonwalkers. And Harrison Schmidt, I've actually heard him talk about how gracious Engle was and helpful, and wanted to him transitioning into that. In December 1972 is when that Apollo 17 mission was. So Ingle waited 9 years to fly in space. All right, and then he flew. Of course he was a commander, a rookie commander of the two persons that were on the STS-2, and then he flew another space shuttle mission. So we're going to jump into. Got a little long-winded there with Joe, but that's okay because we're going to celebrate the 100th birthday of Max Faget, Faget. He was one of the early, he's one person of the early crewed space age you can truly call a genius, is Max Faget. He'd have been 100 years old today, born in Stan Creek, British Honduras, which is now Belize, on August 26, 1921. All right, 100 years ago. And here Max is showing something that that have been at the Kennedy Visitors Complex would find familiar if you saw the Atlantis exhibit. When you go to see the Atlantis building and the exhibit, you all walk into a gigantic room and they have this wonderful movie about the history of the space shuttle and how it all started. And it starts out with all these couple engineers, like a dozen of them, are told to go to this hangar, that there's a new concept that they're to see. And they walk in the hangar, and the hangar's empty. They're all looking around the hangar. There's nothing in the hangar. And all of a sudden, they hear a voice say, "Up here." And it's Max Faget with this model that's in his hand right there. And he takes this model, and you see him throw it like a glider, and it floats around this giant building, warehouse, and then lands on the ground. And they all walk up to it, and he says, "That is our new space plane." And it became the space shuttle, of course, with a lot of different things going on there. But let me tell you about Max Faget. He died, he was the architect of the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Orbiter spacecraft. His accomplishments include the capsule design and operational plan for Project Mercury, and numerous inventions, papers, and books that laid the foundations for today's space flight. An expert on vehicles suitable for safely re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, he was also noted for the basic configuration of the command module, both inside and out of the Apollo command module, that the only part that comes back from the moon that are in our museums. And he also developed the pressure-fed hypergolic engines used on Apollo program. And we know some people that are involved in the hypergolics. Who am I thinking of, Marty? Lee Solid was involved with the rockets, and John Tribe. Yep, I'm thinking of John Tribe was the hypergolics guy. And thank you, John Tribe, for your contribution to our museum recently. We got a star for you, buddy, and we're gonna reveal those stars in our Stay Curious constellation next week. A couple other things Faget developed was what they called the Aerial Capsule Emergency Separation Device. The escape tower is what that is. The survival couch, which was impressing the people in the couch. He designed the Mach number indicator. And he also was involved in the Polaris Missile Steering Task Group, the Polaris Missile, the submarine rocket that we pioneered. So quite an amazing person. All right. He attended San Francisco Junior College. He served 3 years as submarine naval officer in the South Pacific during World War II. And when Max Faget died, we had this beautiful Jessica put this together for us today. This beautiful, he had something to do with every one of these spacecraft, including these early designs. Where am I going? Why do I have a hard time with that? Right above my head. These early concept designs. We have something like this in our museum right now. Okay, and then this was a lander that he was creating in there, and then there over here to my left there you see the space shuttle concepts in there with the Gemini capsule behind me. Max was known for his bow ties and well, you can't say any more about him than when he died at age 83, his good friend and peer Christopher Kraft, who pioneered what a launch director was all about, paid Max Faget this tribute. Quote, Max was a true icon of the space age. There is no one in space history, in this or any other country, who has had any larger impact on man's quest in space exploration than Max Faget. Unquote from Chris Kraft. What a tribute to this guy. And we're happy that we could share that with you today on Stay Curious. And we want to remind you that we are going to create a constellation of, we're going to create a whole universe of constellations with your stars, with your contribution of $100 or more. And we're going to have Mark and Tom Usiak send us $100 this week. Thank you, brothers. We'll put a double star for you guys up there together. And you're not going to believe when we unveil this next week what Jessica's put together. And Karen Conklin has come up with a more great ideas to monetize our program and help you maybe get some business. Like we want you to solicit cheap development. Jessica there, hatching dreams into reality. And as you can see from today's program, she certainly has done wonders to help us going. So our stars contributions is actually $10,000 in counting and we're counting all the contributions that we've had in our year and a half of bringing you Stay Curious. So that's us from today. I want to mention two other quick items. One is that we wanted to say hi to our friends at Via Space. I was doing my community liaison thing today and visiting our hometown rocket company in Cocoa Village in the city of Cocoa. And they are going to do some great things, and we're going to have some of the guests of Via Space. They launch rockets with plastic and nitrous oxide. They're also using other oxygenated fuels but the fuel is plastic, recycled plastic, and you're going to learn a lot about the plastic movement here to eradicate this microplastic that everybody says is in our bodies now. So, hi, Via Space. Thank you, Mary Baldrino, for your insight today. We are taking our Hubble Gallery and converting it to a Via Space Gallery with all their latest technology. They are one of 100 small startup rocket companies out there, but talking to their president today, Ron Fabian, they're one of the top of the list, okay? And they're going to start doing great things. Sid Gutierrez is their CEO, board of directors. He's a two-time astronaut and a space shuttle commander, Sid Gutierrez. We'll have him on the program to Stay Curious. And I just wanted to mention that tomorrow we usually bring you Tales from the White Room with Travis Thompson, and Travis is still under the weather, and I talked to him yesterday, and he's on the mend. He has got some other medical issues that are not COVID related. Wanted to clear that up. He's negative for the virus so far, but he's had some medical problems that are his own personal problems, but he wanted everybody to know he's feeling a lot better. And he sends you all a lot of love for missing him out there. And we'll make a post tomorrow on our Facebook page so you can say hi to Travis. And but hey buddy, we hope you're getting better. Watching Stay Curious here, and we can't wait for him to get back and do his regular Friday show of Tales from the White Room. So Jessica and Marty and I will come up with something tomorrow. Actually, we're going to go through some current events maybe and give a little more status update of what's happening in our museum and how ways that you can help your favorite space nonprofit, the American Space Museum. So until tomorrow, we can't wait to see you in our museum. I'm Mark Marquette, and we will see you again to bridge the space between us.